Avast Switchheads, it is I, Kanan, wishing you well and welcome to my review of Thunder Kid: Hunt for Robot Emperor. With a sort of 3D multi-level run and gun bullet hell space harrier vibe, the game sets out to, well, set you back to those glory days of gaming. But does it work? And before we find out, why not hit the subscribe button, as I have more content incoming with weekly reviews and sales videos. And with that, let's get underway, shall we? Engage. When a rogue AI breaks away from its masters, and then forms a terrible and deadly army, and when all else has failed and the struggle looked bleak, they decide to train one single guy up from a young age to take on the whole AI forces alone. I mean, sure, why not? Just leave it after. Huh? This doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Why the heck wouldn't you just, I don't know, train a whole army in this way? I mean, surely that sounds reasonable. A whole army of them. Come on. Gameplay is a mix between third-person shooter, platformer, and bullet hell run and gunner. It's not every day that you see so many elements thrown into the same game. Although I will say one bad thing about this is some of the actual creatures you can actually just run past and not even bother shooting, which yeah, that's a straight away negative, I suppose one might say. Firstly, the third person view works well enough, although it kind of looks a little odd when you have to turn a corner. And I presume in the future you can't actually turn your body for some inexplicable reason. I'm not quite sure why. Whilst moving around doing your thing, the firing your weapon aspect feels a little slow for my liking and should have really been a little bit faster to match the bullet hell feeling that they were trying to go for. The platforming parts felt okay and got a heck of a lot more harder as you progress the levels, adding environmental obstacles such as spikes and moving platforms, cactuses which cause damage if touched, and many different levels of platforms to jump onto while avoiding enemies and bullets, lasers and the like. You also have multiple routes you can take, and some even leading to golden coins if you wish to grab them. Okay, so I've come a different route this time, and I've already collected this coin in a playthrough before. And basically, yeah, you can take multiple routes and collect coins. There's different routes, like I'm going back onto the main path now, and as you can see you can go up, down, and yeah, all the way around. And this is where I would have come back the other way if I hadn't gone for the coin. Unfortunately though, the collision detection is not always great in some parts, making it hard to jump on some moving platforms with a 3D-ish viewpoint, and sometimes you can even slide off the platform. This happens with the bullets as well, being hit where, well, as far as I can see, you shouldn't have been hit and you should have actually been safe. This can be slightly frustrating because of the viewpoint on the actual game, because you can't see it 100% properly, so you kind of like, even the shadow kind of like works against you sometimes, but it's there, and I suppose I can, if I do that one, then oh, and I get knocked off again. Whoopsie. I did, however, enjoy the free movement you get here, able to move around the actual cramped areas as you liked, to a certain degree that is. You even get to move backwards, which means that if you miss time a jump and fall down a level, or miss a coin, or even that you just want to destroy and mop up all the enemies, you can. And talking of those enemies, there is some variety here and some feeling more like variations on others. As you progress, there are thankfully new enemy types added, even if some of these are, well, just like lasers that spawn from a machine that you then have to go and destroy that machine in order to stop them coming out. The bosses, however, are probably the weakest point to the game. As always, it's a case of find that pattern and use it to destroy the enemy. But some of these bosses involve little movement and little working out to defeat them. And this really did annoy the shit out of me. Okay, so this is one of the later bosses, and this is easier than the starting ones because it literally is this, and that's all you need to do. Later on it fires a few bullets, same thing, just bounce out of its way and continue. It's words cannot express, honestly. Oh, and before I forget, whoever's idea it was to put the writing in front of a checkered background, making it very hard for me to read, so I missed most of it in handheld. Well, why? Seriously, why? The game, however, as a whole felt fine to play and compelled me to keep going and keep playing throughout, and does have a little bit of replay if you can be asked to, well, do it for them coins and other routes. It's also not a very long game, maybe a good few hours more or less depending on you, and I felt $4.99 was more a fair price for what you get here. It does also have that low poly look to it, as you can see, and while there's people out there that no doubt love this sort of thing, it's really not my cuppa and really doesn't float my boat, so I was kind of indifferent to this style. Sound, however, is fine, does what you expect in a game like this, nothing more, nothing less. The good. All those into low poly, you're covered here. Some good ideas and mixing of genres. I enjoyed what was there, for the most part. The bad. Boss battles really let this game down. Collision and controls need a little bit of a tweak. Feels oh so average. And it's kind of short. It does have its problems, and maybe it's not entirely my cuppa, but I found it fun to play in an average way, and possibly one to pick up if on sale, if you're not sure and not entirely into this genre and style of game. However, for me it's going to be a 2+ out of 5. It's not bad, and it's definitely not the worst. It's just average. So don't expect to be blown away, or even decent boss battles, because you possibly won't get them here. And before I rummage through that box of alternatives, why not hit that like and subscribe button? Become a member of the Switchhead family, even more so if you've made it this far and you like what you've seen, as I put out more weekly reviews and sales videos each and every week. Here it is, the alternative. And that's going to be Space Harrier, for obvious reasons. It's that kind of vibe to it, and definitely a similar kind of feel. But of course, if you've got a better alternative, leave it down in the comments, much appreciated. And with that, if you've got anything you want to say about Thunder Kid, leave them down in the comments. That is of course where they belong. Come and join us, bring the chat to the community Discord. I'm always happy to continue the conversation there, because life is better when we switch together.